Wealth Management Podcast.
Welcome to the ZHAW Wealth Management Podcast. Today from downtown Zurich, the heart of its financial center. We're here at Banco Itaú Private Bank. I'm joined by Mr. Stefan Jenni. Stefan, bom dia, tudo bem?
Bom dia, tudo bem.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Stefan Jenni. I'm responsible for the operations of Itaú Private Bank here in Zurich. I'm with the bank for a bit more than 16 years. In the market, in the banking industry in Switzerland for 25 years. Most of the time I worked here in Switzerland, between Basel and Zurich. Originally from Basel, which you cannot hear in the English accent.
Absolutely not.
If you would speak German, you would probably hear that as well. I also spent some time abroad, so I moved for UBS first to New York. Afterwards, working at Itaú, I spent 4 years in Miami, in our private banking operation in Miami. Afterwards, I spent around 4 years in Chile, in South America, and we are, as a family, back in Switzerland since 2018. The first years I was responsible for operations and IT, and now since 3 years as the CEO of the bank here in Switzerland.
Very nice, thank you. Interesting trajectory. I actually had the pleasure and privilege of working and living in Brazil for a couple of years. I know the country fairly well. My wife happens to be Brazilian. So I think I personally know Banco Itaú and Itaú Private Bank a bit, but it's arguably a less well-known brand in Switzerland. How would you describe Itaú? Yeah. It's mother house and also your bank here.
Exactly. No, whoever went to Brazil, I think after he lands in Brazil, probably in São Paulo, he knows.
Yes.
At that moment on, he knows because Itaú is omnipresent in the country. Itaú is the biggest Latin American bank, having operations in different countries in Latin America. Of course, the most relevant being in Brazil. A universal bank operating from retail banking up to corporate and investment banking as well. Being market leader in some of those segments, I would almost say in most of those segments, having a market share between 20 to 30%.
Wow.
So a very relevant player in South America as a whole. Having international operations is very important for the bank. So of course we are much smaller outside Brazil/South America, but having a very strong growth story over the past years. So we are operating in the US, having a presence in Miami and New York. And here in Europe, we're having today Portugal, UK, and also the Swiss bank here. The Swiss bank focuses on private banking services. We are catering to Brazilian and some Latin American markets for wealth management, and also supporting the European client base who wants to invest in Brazil and being a bit the door to South America.
Sort of a gateway, yes.
Exactly.
And the bank as such, I believe the mother house is publicly listed. So it's one of the fewer, successful privately owned Latin American banks, right?
Exactly. It's publicly listed, but as you just said, it's also privately owned, which you see very strong in the culture of the bank. We are celebrating 100 years now this year, which I think for any institution in the world, but especially for a Latin American brand, very long history. We are very proud of that. As I said, the fact that we are family owned, still family owned or partially family owned, is very strong in the culture. We always say that in our case the client is in the center, which I would say today any bank or almost every firm out there has this in.
Clients usually are at the center, yes.
Exactly in the logo, but having seen other institutions, I must say Itaú does this very, very different from anyone else. So it's really throughout the corporate culture, you see that we are here to support our clients on any requirement they have. And I think this is very much in the corporate culture, in the employees' DNA, and if you see the strategy we have, this is very well strongly reflected.
Yeah, I'll come to that. So that's an obvious question. The client profile, also the employee profile in such a setup. First and foremost, I would obviously like to congratulate you on your strong result in our latest ZHAW Wealth Management Survey. First entry of Banco Itaú with a strong first result. I think particularly, if I recall correctly, in capital adequacy and also efficiency, you've scored well. Does this come as a surprise to you, or how would you describe your operations? It seems to be a well-capitalized bank with efficient operations, or how would you characterize that?
No doubt. I think capitalization is very important. As you know, in wealth management, this is a key criteria clients are looking for. So I think it's very important for us to show that we have a full banking license, as any or most of the other players here in the market. So with a strong capital base behind, this is a strong argument towards the clients. And efficiency, I think we all know that Switzerland has a brand of being expensive. One challenge we have is that our cost base is in Swiss francs. The salaries we pay to our employees is in Swiss francs, and the revenues we're making is in dollar. So you're always going to have a currency mismatch. So there's the only way we can operate in a country like Switzerland is by being extremely efficient and always thinking twice of where we spend our resources. Of course, I think the bank also benefits of being part of a bigger group, of a holding. So we are trying to outsource services to our intragroup relationships, to our intergroup presences, which I think in the last 10, 12 years we have been doing this very, very successful, which I think if you look at the ranking of your study, I think it helps us compared to a standalone traditional Swiss bank who has to have full operations here in Switzerland and who does from A to Z everything here. We always look to perform tasks where Switzerland as a brand, as a place of banking, adds value to the clients. That's what we want to do here. That's what we want to use the presence here in Switzerland.
Client-facing tasks.
Client-facing tasks, support towards our clients, product manufacturing, day-to-day support to our relationship managers. This is something we strongly believe that doing this out of Switzerland, due to different reasons, we can come to this later on, adds a lot of value. But if there are tasks which we can gain synergies or which we can do with our colleagues in Miami, for example, we are trying to join forces and do this task for both banks.
Yeah, so being part of a broader group probably adds agility in that respect.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. And it seems to have worked. Just looking at the asset growth has been quite spectacular. I believe you've been around for close to 15 years or so in Zurich and have reached over 10 billion AUM now. Yeah. How do you do that? Where does that come from, and how will it continue?
To 12 billion. Of course, we are very proud of that as well. I think it's continuous execution on a business plan, on a business model which was created back then. Of course, we have a strong DNA of reinventing ourselves, so we are always trying to adapt to the different market situations. But I think the USP we have created to cater towards Brazilian/Latin American clients. I always say Brazilian and then Latin American clients because the majority still is Brazil. But I think that business model of focusing exclusively on this clientele, I think makes a big difference. And whatever we do in the bank here, whatever cent we spend to increase the satisfaction of our clients or to increase the services we provide to our clients is specifically for this type of clients, which is very different from some of the players you have in the market. You have a very broad client base with different markets. I often see that they produce products and try to cater this to their whole client base, which is not the case. We really listen to the clients, what they need, and then we prefer to focus on a product specifically catered towards Brazilian clients or Latin American clients than just opening up, having a very broad product shelf. I think this success factor linked with, again, going back to the powerhouse Itaú is in South America. I think this is a natural combination, which I think is a very, very strong USP and I would say born for success.
Yeah.
Just a couple or one figure which I think is impressive in the wealth management space in Brazil. We are close to 30% of market share. Those are official
domestic market share.
Domestic private banking market share, official numbers. Here in Switzerland, our estimation, which is not official figures, but as we know the market and some consultants are giving us an expectation of the market, we are below 10% of market share. So only looking at this shows that there is a potential by continuing improving the product, improving the services, being close to the client. There is a natural move that we might be able to close that gap, and this means further growth.
I mean, I certainly observe a lot of wealth, a lot of new wealth being generated in Brazil. So you're probably in a growing market. Right. How they're coming to clients? How does that happen? It's like who are these clients? How does that work? How do they end up in Zurich? I assume they walk into their big Banco Itaú branch in Porto Alegre, and then they move part of their assets offshore, part domestic, or how does that typically work?
Yeah. Latin American clients, Brazilians included, have a strong history of diversifying assets by sending money abroad. The investment spectrum in Brazil is very limited. So first of all investments are in real and in Brazilian currency. And if you look to diversify within the country, it's very narrow what you can do. So there is not a need, but there is a natural tendency that Brazilian clients moving part of their assets abroad.
To access the foreign markets.
To access foreign markets, to diversify, to not putting all eggs in the same basket, the traditional concept. And Itaú can offer two ways of doing this. One via our booking center we have in the US, in Miami, and the other one which we have here in Zurich. And we believe that this is a strong setup, which we even call the global Latin American bank. Only Switzerland and Miami is not really global, but we feel that this is the need or what our clients are looking for.
And they choose either Miami or Zurich or both? Or how do they choose between the two?
They can choose both. Of course, we share with them the characteristics of both units. Some clients already have a natural tendency towards one or the other jurisdiction, but it is their choice. Bigger clients usually even choose both, as you said, to even further diversify, having assets in Brazil, in the US, and in Europe. There are different strategies being followed. And then, of course, for Switzerland, I think all the criteria which are valid, I would say, for hundreds of years, our tradition, our political system, the neutrality, the very attractive labor force, the know-how we have as being the leader in wealth management. I think those are the criteria which still today are very valid. And looking at the world, I think we will speak about this as well. Looking at how the world is developing, I think there is a need for a place rock solid like
a safe haven, so to speak.
Safe haven.
Yep.
And those are the arguments. Besides others, more tangible arguments, but those arguments, I would say, I'm speaking a lot to clients, are still the same ones which
traditional value proposition. Good to hear that this is still the case. And in terms of currency, they choose then euro-dominated safekeeping accounts when they come here.
Mainly US dollar.
US dollar.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one challenge we have with the Brazilian clients is that yes, they like to diversify by changing jurisdictions and bring assets offshore. But they're very dollar-centric, and they're also very Latin American or Brazil-centric. So what happened, and I think it improved a lot, if I compare, I'm working with Latin America for 25 years, if I compare 20 years ago, clients, they send money abroad and they purchase the same assets they had in Brazil.
Yes, I've heard that.
The ADR is a Petrobras and any other stock. I think this has improved. It still is around, mainly on the fixed income space, because the risk perception of a Brazilian client is a bit different than an international investor. But I think this continued education and speaking out about the importance of real diversification, etc., is kicking in. So back to your question, still very much dollar, but we also see clients taking position in different currencies and starting to diversify even further. And
actually globally diversify their portfolios, which is good to hear. Yeah. And you mentioned this sort of exclusive LATAM focus. Are you even open for business for other offshore locations or even for Swiss-based wealthy clients?
Yeah, I mean, we see a demand of Swiss-based clients or European-based clients who want to invest in Latin America.
As sort of the reverse gateway.
The reverse gateway, exactly, where they have a global allocation and they see a strong future in Latin America and have a significant part of their assets invested in Latin America. And why doing this through a Swiss bank or a bank who does not know Latin American that well that we do, and they just ask us to manage this part of their asset allocation.
I've actually tried. As a private person, I cannot easily invest directly into Brazilian stocks. There's the ETFs, but not into single stocks. That's quite complicated.
Yeah, there is a way which is quite complicated. We have a very strong product. I think the barrier of entry is not too low, but if a client qualifies for that type of investment, there is a so-called 4373 account. 4373 is the regulation in Brazil, that's why it's called this way, which is in a very efficient way to invest locally, domestically in Brazil, and it's very much used of non-Brazilian residents to invest in the local market. This is something which we see increased demand from offshore investors, from investors around here, and this is something which I would say it's probably not the number one priority to focus on, but it shows that there is still even more potential than the story I had with the 7-8% market share growing to 30%. There are other projects or other markets which we can conquer, and we see more and more demand of international investors.
That's an interesting niche, also a quite unique USP, as it's, as I said, not easy to invest into these markets directly.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, from a know-how perspective, I can proudly say that there is, I would say, no one better if you would deploy assets in Brazil or South America than Itaú, being the leader in most of those segments. So yes, we see this demand.
Interesting. And I guess coming to the ever important digital transformation question, I guess with your client profile, I suppose they probably visit you once a year or so when they make a European trip, but how does day-to-day advisory work? You advise them by that telephone or through digital channels or locally in Brazil, or how does that work?
It's a very hybrid model with, of course, using our onshore presence in Brazil throughout the country where clients have access to visit us. Also, of course, the bank here, we see an increased demand of visits of clients here in Europe. Europe, especially for the ski season, winter season, became very attractive as well. So I would say we never had so many clients visiting during this winter like we had this year, which is a very good sign. I think it's good for the bank in Switzerland to have those visits. So we see an increased demand. So we have the personal visits, but also, of course, digital channels are extremely important to our clients. And also to our staff catering to the clients. That they have the information the moment they need to bring it to the clients. And I would say there is a particular challenge for us. I would say it's not even the offshore banks, the Swiss banks, who are the big competitors on the digital channels. It's Brazil itself. As Itaú is one of the leaders also in digital channels, in giving access to the clients remotely.
From its retail
retail operation, retail base, very strong online banking capabilities. I just saw recently a figure that within Itaú, 97% of contracts or agreements are already signed electronically. So it's a very tech-savvy client base, which is highly spoiled by what Itaú and other players in the market are bringing to them. So it's more...
they expect that type of digital service.
Also here offshore. And as you know, with the bank, the size, a bank of our size, those challenges are bigger than what we see in Brazil. So it's usually the client with the expectation to have the same level of digitalization we have in Brazil for the offshore units. So this is I would say, one of the major challenges we have between the US and Switzerland, and we're working very hard together with Brazil to improve those capabilities and to improve our digital.
That's probably challenging and costly from platform perspective, operations perspective, to have sort of a globally hybrid, homogeneous model.
No, it is definitely. Of course, we have to rely on outsourcing partners. So we have to see who is best in class and who can support us on those journeys. Nevertheless, I think we have started to access also more Itaú Brazil who help us on this journey to deploy and to bring us features, onshore features to the offshore world, which is also not very simple. It's a challenging task, but I think this is a good strategy of aligning even further the experiences the clients have onshore in Brazil versus what he has offshore in Switzerland or in the US.
Makes sense, yeah. And I believe in that regard you have operations in Portugal as well to support you.
Yes, we have a back office in Portugal. We also have a banking license in Portugal for our corporate and investment banking.
Ah, interesting. Yes.
Yeah, but one strong pillar we have is an operational back office service center, which caters to our bank in the US and to our bank here in Switzerland.
Interesting. I've actually just returned from an exchange week in Lisbon, and there was strong talk of it. There seems to be a strong influx of Latin Americans. Wealthy Latin Americans either coming physically or sending parts of their assets also to Portugal. So it's probably helpful to have a base there as well to serve clients.
No, migration of Latin American clients to Europe has increased significantly over the years. A mix of course, political situations in some countries in Latin America, mixed with very attractive tax regimes in some of the countries in Europe. So I think this is somehow a good combination to satisfy the desire of those clients. So yes, we see an increased demand of clients moving into the European region, including UK, which is always an interesting place for them, but also Switzerland, I think, is a very attractive place for this. Nevertheless, due to language benefits, in case of Brazil, Portugal is a strong candidate.
Yes.
For Latin American Spanish-speaking countries, Italy or Spain, of course, is a natural.
An early destination they think of when they think of Europe. Yeah.
I would say so.
Yep.
Yes. Most of them, of course, have also origins from those regions. Some of them already have passport of one of those countries, so it makes it more natural a move there. Nevertheless, you should never estimate a move of such a distance and the impact to your family and whatever you might have. So we have also clients who decided to try this and afterwards moving back. So it cannot be only a financial decision. I think
absolutely.
There's much more around such a relocation move.
Yes. And in terms of servicing these clients with products and services, what do you need? What do they like? How do they invest? Do they like to, gamble, or do they like crypto, or are they conservative buy and hold players, or what are some of the characteristics of Brazilian investors?
I would say this is very similar to any other business or any other player in the financial market as well. It depends on the client need, on the situation, on the horizon we have, on the structure, on the liquidity needs. So I think this depends from client to client. Overall, maybe yes, there is a tendency to have a bit more risk appetite than some of the more, I would say, conservative clienteles. Latin American residents also are a bit more used to volatility, to uncertainties. So this might reflect in their investment behavior, also in their asset allocation. But overall, I would say it's similar to any other market.
Other geographies, interesting. Yeah, which probably speaks to the development of the country as such as well. Interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. Now you've mentioned and I'm pleased to hear that as a Swiss citizen, that's the safe haven sort of value proposition that still holds. On the other hand, are we not, I'm just trying to put myself in the mind of a Brazilian client, are we not almost dangerously close to, the European conflicts and the Ukraine situation, where there's a crazy world we live in? Are assets still coming, or how do you see that developing over the coming years?
Yeah.
Is that a risk?
Yeah,
with increasing tensions?
Of course, tensions and wars is always a bad thing. I mean, there's I would say no benefit in all of this. So of course, clients are concerned about this. Clients are concerned about global developments. And there, going back to what we said before, I would say Switzerland offers a unique position in the world, being, of course, that model being challenged by different parts of the world, and I think Switzerland is going through a challenging moment by holding to what we are here for. But I would say there is lots of value for this, even in the tensions we have close by. So yes, I would say we even see an increased demand in the recent years or recent months. As you saw in the study, I think in the last 2 years, your figures were from 22. We had strong inflows.
Yes.
Even stronger, much stronger in 23, which you're going to see in your next.
We'd be pleased to see that. Yes.
Next study. So yes, there is value for this, and I personally believe there is no better place to place your money, which you want to preserve for the long term.
And has the Credit Suisse downfall last year, did that help you or hurt you? Because hedging Grifo was obviously a very strong brand locally in Brazil.
Credit Suisse was and continues to be, now with UBS, a very relevant player in the Brazilian market, being one of the main competitors in the country, I would say. We have slightly benefited short term of this move, because some clients were deciding to diversify further and moving assets away. But I would say we were extremely conservative in pushing clients to move assets, or even hiring talents from the institution at that time. So the bank, as I said in the introduction, is very conservative and not attacking those momentums aggressively. Looking into Switzerland, I would say there is no good at all for the Swiss financial industry with what happened with Credit Suisse. I think it was very good to have two strong global players here. But at the end of the day, I think it is what it is, and we have to continue this. Will it harm the financial center in the long term? I strongly believe it will not, or it's not. I think it's part of the economic development and of different business model institutions.
And maybe a natural consolidation as well, yes.
Exactly. So I don't think it will harm the financial center. But of course, we had lots of questions during the probably more when Credit Suisse went through the worst turmoils, the 6 months before the acquisition. I think there we had lots of conversations with clients and explaining them what could happen, what could be the scenarios, etc. I think today this is past already, and we're looking forward to the
good to hear.
future. Yeah.
Stefan, it's very insightful. We're almost coming to the end of our conversation, so we could go on for a lot more. Maybe in conclusion, if you as the CEO of an offshore focused, Zurich-based private bank, what would be your key issues, your wish list to the I don't know, regulators or politicians or the general public? What are some of the things you struggle with, and how could we address that as Switzerland as a financial hub?
Yeah, no, without going much into detail, I think we spoke a lot about those values Switzerland has and how proud we should be about the Swiss financial market and the wealth management hub we have built over the last decades. I think we need to be more proud of this. We need to start more actively selling this in the globe, and also be firm on the values we stand for. So I would expect here continued political support for our industry, which I think is very, very critical for Switzerland as a country.
For a small independent player,
exactly,
yes, country.
Independent player. So I would expect their continued support, or even increased support, and then tackle some of the challenges most of the players have, like the European market access.
Yes, ongoing topic. Yes,
exactly. That we are able to have good operations within Europe, and some of the other challenges. But I think. More on the soft side, I think being more proud, being more outspoken, selling this value proposition, which I strongly believe we have, I would say this is very beneficial to Switzerland, and I would strongly support this.
Very, very encouraging. Hope we can do that. Stefan, thank you very much for this conversation.
Very nice.
Thank you very much for your patience and your attention. Thank you.